Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Numbers chapter 33, 56 verses in this chapter. In verse 1, we see one continuous difference here. The word stages versus journeys. As they went out from the land versus which went forth. Verse 2, removals versus going out, or I should say goings out. And the word journeying being used here in verse 2 versus going out. Removals and journeys seem to be synonyms. Verse 4, also, Yah executed vengeance on their gods or Elohims. The Masoretic says something different, saying that Yah executed judgments. But we can see a significant, I'd say a big difference, to be honest, that Yah executed judgments on the Elohim. Big difference there. If I would just be able to type that, there it is, big difference. We have multiple continuous differences that I will ignore, and will simply mention that it is in the description box. You can read them all for yourself. Skipping ahead to verse 8, we see an addition of the name Etham has been added. And then skipping ahead to verse 16, again, many differences of names. Wilderness, which means, technically it means desert. In the Middle East, when we're talking in a Middle Eastern context, it means desert, since there are no jungles or forests in that area. And the Masoretic expresses that more specifically as well, saying it is desert. A continuous difference in the same verse, we have the name Kibrothhattaavah in the Masoretic, expressed as the graves of lust in English in the Septuagint, which could very well just be a translation of the Hebrew. Okay, skipping forward again, we're going all the way down to verse 36. So verse 36, we see a wilderness of Paran. In the Greek is Pharan. This is Kadesh or Cadiz. Versus wilderness of Zin, which is Kadesh. So we can see it's an interesting difference. One is saying Paran or Pharan versus Zin. Okay. Verse 38, there's an addition in the Masoretic saying, went up into Mount Hor, or Aaron or Aharon, the priest, went up into Mount Hor, and that is not in the original. And we have an addition in verse 40 as well. They added the word south, that the king Arad dwelt in the south, not just in the land of Canaan in general, Canaan. The children of Israel were entering the land, versus heard of the coming of the children of Israel. So expressed differently, similar thoughts. Verse 44, we have a name difference, but I think it's quite significant just because the words are very drastically different. And there are other drastic differences, but this one in particular is a well-known place. It is called Ai or I or A. I'm not sure you pronounce it, but I'm going to say I. So I in the Septuagint versus Ijea Barim or Iea Barim. In verse 45, we have the same word or name, I or guy or gay maybe, versus Eem, which I believe could be a short form of Iea Barim, possibly. Okay, moving on to 47. Continuous difference here is that they describe the west. Where's the west? Oh, it's verse 48. Okay. Verse 48, west of Moab um, versus the plains of Moab. Okay, that's actually verse 48. And then a continuous difference, Jordan by Jericho versus by Jordan, Jericho, or near Jericho in brackets. Verse 51, we have an addition of you are to pass over Jordan versus when you are passed over Jordan. So the timing is different in terms of, I was telling them you will do this versus when you've done this already, when you've completed this. Verse 52, a big difference here. It says, you shall destroy all that dwell in the land before your face versus then you shall drive out all the inhabitants. So the Septuagint is saying you will not spare their lives. You're going to destroy them. Versus the Masoretic saying you will spare their lives of these inhabitants in this land of Canaan or Canaan. I think it's Canaan. Okay. And then it says, you shall abolish their high places. You shall destroy and you shall demolish their pillars. In the Masoretic, it's saying you shall destroy all their pitchers versus high places and quite pluck down all their high places. So it is saying more specifically, don't just destroy, but you're destroying all their pitchers and plucking down their high places versus abolishing them. And that's all it says there. So it doesn't talk about demolishing their pillars in the Masoretic. Verse 53, destroy again versus dispossess. An inheritance versus possess it. Uh, Again, I believe an inheritance denotes that it has been uh, prepared in advance for you. It's really reserved for you. Verse 54, inherit versus divide. Uh, divide to whatsoever part. Actually, no, that's a different word. To whatsoever part a man's name shall go forth by lot, there shall be his property. Versus every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falls. Okay, what's the difference there? It doesn't seem too different to me. Uh, so, whatever part a man's name shall go forth. So, let's say we're dividing lots and we have Manasseh, we have Yehuda, and they're dividing it by lot. Just for example, I'm not saying this is what happened. That's your property versus every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falls. So uh, we can see that there's more emphasis on the man's name, however they do that, but the man's name will be used as a determining factor in how you divide these properties, these inheritances. Pretty much, I believe it does say the same thing in the Masoretic, but it doesn't say how that is determined. What do you use by lot? What are you using? And it says in the Septuagint that you're using their name. Verse 55, according to the tribes of your fathers. Okay, so it is according to the tribes. So it does say that in both. Okay, and those tribes are named. Verse 55, destroy versus drive out. Again, significant difference there. Probably even a big difference. Thorns. Um, whomsoever of them you shall leave shall be thorns in your sides versus pricks. But I believe that's pretty much meaning the same thing. It's just in our modern vernacular that can mean something else. Darts, which pretty much mean arrows, versus thorns. So here it's saying thorns in your sides instead of darts in your sides, because thorns in your eyes makes more sense than an arrow into your eye, because an arrow will go through your skull. a dart will go into your side, and that's how you kill a man. If you're using an arrow, you're gonna shoot him in the side of his body, go through the vital organs. Um, and then it says there, enemies. Okay, and they shall be enemies to you on the land. So they're not just gonna annoy you or vex you. They will be your enemies. They're gonna be trying to kill you. Okay, that's what they want to do. Enemies want to kill you and cause trouble, but most of all to get you out of there. They don't. They're not. They're antagonistic. They want you off. They want you dead. Think of the enemy, the spiritual enemy. And then it says there's an omission on the land on which you shall dwell. So it's not simply you're going to live there. No, you shall live there. This is a command. This is something I've determined. And verse 56, speaking of the word, I had determined to do to them, so I will do to you as I thought to do. So one is more sure that Yah has determined this. He has declared it almost, you could say, versus thought. I just, I thought about it just on a whim. No, it's been determined probably long in advance. So on a whim versus pre-planned, I could say. Predetermined, maybe. I don't know. Pre-planned. It's hard to say. Okay, so that's all I have for you for this video on Numbers 33. My goal now, I'm going to try to increase productivity of this channel, and I'll try to do at least 2 videos a day. So 2 chapters a day. So uh, so stay tuned for the next video shortly. Thank you very much for your time. May Yah bless you and make your way prosperous. You've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom and peace. The peace of Yah be unto you.